I mentioned in the previous episode that you should capture every recurring thought, idea, and negative feeling as soon as they happen. However, I radically changed my mind since then. After thorough examination of myself, I discovered the following side effects of capturing your thoughts all the time. Capturing has a cost. The more often you do it, the more you realize that the benefits are diminishing. There is also rumination about doing it right. When you're doing the normal activities and receive a stream of thoughts, you have to decide whether to stop or forget it, which causes unnecessary stress. And the third reason is that I simply was too jittery, fidgeted too much, and could not truly relax. That was the case for me. So I'm backtracking a little bit, or actually a lot, and admitting my mistake. And that's something I believe everyone should do once they feel like there is another better idea or solution that serves better. It's good to acknowledge it straight away in order to do what's best, simply. And in addition, you become fragile by trying to imagine that there is this magical state of mind that can only be achieved by removing all recurring thoughts. Doesn't really work that way. Something I had to learn. But by trying to remove them, you create more recurring thoughts, which could sound something like this, like, am I in the present state now? Why not? What is bothering me, etc. So, as you can hear by now, believing in the present state as an absence of thoughts is truly fragile and a futile battle. Instead, you should let go and accept that they are coming. Then you can quickly turn your attention into outward presence without needing to use your hands or phone or paper or all that jazz. Because thoughts are completely gone once acknowledged. Thoughts are completely gone once acknowledged, which was a hard pill to swallow for me after 2.5 years of nonstop capturing. But if you basically imagine and think like, okay, this thought I have right now, I accept that it's there. It can linger around for quite a while. Then suddenly it's just poof. You should really try it. And there's also one important reason why you should not capture all the time, despite my very best effort to convince you in the previous episodes. Because in every field of life, there exists a signal to noise ratio. How much of the information is useful, which is signal, which is just random fluctuations and stuff you can ignore, which is noise. And in the masterpiece Anti-Fragile, Nassim Taleb writes the following, quote, assume further that for what you're observing at the yearly frequency, the ratio of signal to noise is about 1-to-1, say half noise, half signal. It means that about half of changes are real improvements or degradations. The other half comes from randomness. This ratio is what you get from yearly observations. So in other words, from not engaging it too much, quite less so. Back to the quote. But if you look at the very same data on a daily basis, the composition would change to 95% noise and 5% signal. And if you observe data on an hourly basis, as people immersed in the news and market price variations do, and just a little tangent here, this book was written before social media is very popular. So you can say that social media and YouTube feeds or other kinds of just scrolling is included too. So if you observe all of that on an hourly basis, the split becomes 99.5% noise to 5.5, actually, 0.5% signal. That is 200 times more noise than signal, which is why anyone who listens to news, except when very, very insignificant events take place, is one step below sucker, which means not really good. In other words, the more you indulge in data, the more noise you get. It's not like you go into more often and get more information, rather the opposite, and quite dramatically the opposite. And the same goes for capturing your thoughts. If you're too adamant about reflecting on a digital note and writing it down, most of what is coming out are unimportant. You can pretty much forget it without any harm. The only thing you truly want to capture is a signal, which in this case means mismatched commitments and stunning insights. But fortunately, they will always stick around much longer, so you don't need to be afraid about forgetting them, because if they're important, they will stick around and demand your attention. So this means that you can afford to wait until you're in a position to brain dump. So then the question remains, how often should you write down the thoughts? And the answer is, it depends on the situation. Unfortunately, there is no one-size-fits-all formula. Fortunately, though, you will feel when you need to capture or not after a while. Your body will behave somewhat automatically if something you truly must not forget. So if it's important, you will pretty much grab it straight away with the reflex and just type it down without needing to have this internal decision making beforehand. So it's quite easy to see when it's time or not. However, if you're new to writing down your thoughts, as most of you are, I recommend you schedule in your calendar 2 to 5 occasions every day for brain dumping for 1 week. So 2 to 5 occasions, depending on how much time you have, for brain dumping for 1 week. And it doesn't have to be that long, just for maybe 10 to 15 minutes. The first 5 minutes to truly like get things going and write down your inner monologue, stuff like that. And I've written this in the 2 previous episodes, and articles, which I'll link in the show notes. So follow them to write down whatever you think during that session, and then do the actions prescribed. For instance, making it a task and scheduling it into your calendar. You do all of this right then. Once you completed this trial week, or onboarding week, as you might call it, you do not need to allocate extra time. You have now tasted how it feels to be free from your thoughts, because that's very important. You don't really know how much it feels until you truly tested it. So you need some time to basically practice more than what you should do otherwise, just to know like, okay, this is how it can feel like with no strain or headache and stuff like that, when you don't need to have these commitments running around in your head. So you need this separation between like, okay, now I'm in a cloudful state and in a more clear state, mental clarity, as one might call it. But after you completed the week, you can now rely on your immediate judgment when you feel you should truly write it down or just let go. But nevertheless, it takes time and practice to truly get the intuitive sense of when to capture. But in the meantime, you can follow the following heuristics. Whenever you cannot let go of a thought for at least some minutes, when it's just tormenting you straight away, either write down or adjust your task manager and calendar right then. So for instance, if there is a commitment that you suddenly remember that you should do, then you should make it into the calendar or just an option. And then it doesn't take very long, and then you're free. Then the benefits greatly outweigh the costs. Another heuristic: if you're doing planned work and get stuck, write down every thought you have until you can effortlessly continue. And this, by the way, is the recipe for achieving the flow state, which I've written about more in another article, which I link in the show notes and description. The Third heuristic: whenever you receive a commitment or opportunity at your plate, capture it right then, so you don't need to worry about it later. It's like the 2-minute rule, and only handle it once to, once you hold it in your hand and you store it straight away. So you don't need to do it afterwards. And if you're stressed and in a negative thought spiral, take some minutes to write down your automatic thoughts. So I've written it more with another article, which I link, to relieve the situation. And do it if you're very consumed in frustration, worry, panic, or hopelessness. And lastly, do not capture when driving, sports, interactive physical activities, and lying in bed because you want to relax when you lie in bed. Unless the thought has a grip on you for more than 10 minutes, yes, more than 10 minutes, you should simply let it go. Otherwise, be comfortable with letting your thoughts pass, and you can effortlessly enter the present state without any action from your part.